5 signs you have trouble setting boundaries. Knowing how to set boundaries is necessary if you want to maintain healthy relationships. Are you able to do that, or do you have trouble setting boundaries? Having trouble setting boundaries. And setting boundaries means showing people that you have your own wants and needs that are different from theirs. By marking them, you are telling them, you must not exceed this limit. It is like the borders that separate one country from another. When you set boundaries, you are actually affirming your identity, values, beliefs and self-esteem. By limiting the influence of others on you, you strengthen your sense of security and protect yourself from abuse and manipulation. However, although setting boundaries is a necessary act that reflects self-respect, it is often really difficult for you to do so. This is because in your relationships you often prioritize the well-being of others more than your own. Below we give you some tips that can help you discover if you have problems setting boundaries. If so, you will be able to change the way you relate to others. In fact, you will begin to see yourself as someone worthy of respect and appreciation. Here's how you can tell if you have problems setting boundaries. Your relationships are what construct you. In fact, every interaction you've ever had with others, your parents, family, friends, teachers, strangers, has been the foundation upon which you've created the view you have of yourself in relation to the people you interact with. You have established a pattern of relationships and a series of schemas that have determined the place you assign to yourself in your relationships and the way you understand them and see yourself in them. This set of dysfunctional patterns and schemas of relationships plays a central role in boundary setting. If you have learned through your relationships that submissiveness and agreeableness are the way to maintain relationships, it will be extremely difficult for you to set boundaries. The problem with not knowing how to set boundaries is due to the narratives you have created based on the way you have lived and interpreted experiences from past relationships. Regardless of its origin, the problem manifests itself in your daily life, even if you are not aware of it. Let's look at some signs that may indicate that you have this problem. 1. You fear conflict. Signs that you have problems setting boundaries. Out of fear, you avoid facing the conflicts in interpersonal relationships. This fear prevents you from setting boundaries as you feel that this way you avoid confrontations. As a result, you avoid expressing your wishes, opinions and disagreements. Fear of conflict is not a good friend for you in your relationships. This is because it acts as a barrier that prevents you from signaling the boundaries that others must not cross. This feeling causes you to be accommodating to others despite what you really feel or want. 2. You have difficulty separating yourself from others. Maybe you are having trouble setting boundaries because you don't have a clear idea of who you are. You do not have a clear idea of your identity. When you recognize your identity, it means that you can differentiate yourself and mark the boundaries between yourself and others. When you know who you are and get others to recognize you as such and respect your ideas, values, beliefs and feelings, it becomes much easier to set boundaries. In fact, it is a completely natural process. If you don't know how far your rights extend, it will be very difficult for you to set limits. In this connection, the separation between you and others can become unclear. To consolidate yourself, you seek in others what you do not have in yourself, an identity. Then they become reference figures for you. As a result, you let them cross all boundaries, because you have in effect become a part of them, and if you lose them, you lose yourself. 3. You have problems with your self-esteem. When you have difficulty seeing yourself as a person of worth and judge yourself unlovingly, setting boundaries becomes a problem. This is so because your boundaries are indicators of valuing yourself, of what you believe, think and feel. If you don't value yourself, How will you get others to respect and value you? It won't matter that they overstep your boundaries, because there will be nothing of value to take care of. In fact, boundaries are a method of self-care. Low self-esteem can make you believe that you are unable to define boundaries in your relationships. Consequently, you will have trouble setting them. If this is the case, you need to work on your self-esteem so that you can have healthier relationships where you are valued. 4. You have difficulty making decisions. And setting boundaries means making decisions. If you have a hard time making up your mind and sticking to what you've decided, you may have a hard time setting boundaries because you just can't bring yourself to do it. You will be filled with doubts. If I do, they might, but if I don't, they might. I don't know what to do. While you are making up your mind, the others are pushing your boundaries. They are not waiting for you. 5. You like to please others. The fact that you always do what others want is a clear sign that you have problems setting boundaries. Because you probably often end up wasting your time doing things you don't really want to do. When you focus only on the satisfaction and happiness of others, it is all too easy to lose sight of your own needs. That in itself is not the problem. But if you lose sight of them, it becomes more unlikely that you will fulfill them. To set limits, you must learn/dare to say no. After all, you are perfectly within your rights not to comply with a request. That is the very essence of a request. However, the fact that you systematically comply with the wishes of others may be related to fear of conflict, emotional dependence, low self-esteem, fear of loneliness or loss of the other's affection. Problems with setting boundaries are expressed in different ways in your relationships. If you really want to have healthy relationships where mutual respect is a constant factor, you need to learn to set boundaries that allow you to grow and be free. In which situations do you find it difficult to set boundaries? Are there people with whom you find it more difficult to set boundaries? How can a lack of boundaries affect your relationships and your well-being?